Now we're on episode 323 of Rachel chatting with, I think his name's Asan, the DJ, about all the things, our intention for tour, going through breakups, simulation theory, and social constructs. Now, Asan, he was at Rise conference in Austin, the one that I attended virtually. And she would talk to him throughout the sessions and stuff. So she really tries to incorporate, like how Jack is incorporated as like a character in the whole saga. Excuse me, Asan was for the live events. So if you've been to Rise, you probably remember him.
Well, guys, you're in for a treat, or the weirdest podcast you've ever listened to. I thought it would be fun to...
And this one is from September 20th, so recent.
Bring my dear friend Asan onto the show to chat. Those of you who have been to a Rise conference before know Asan as Asan the DJ. And you have danced to his music, you've laughed at his jokes, you know that he is as much a part of the structure of one of our events as I am. And as we prepare for tour, which we kick off in about 3 weeks now, thought it would be fun to have him come on and chat and catch up and talk about the shows and what we're putting together. But even more than that, I just thought it'd be cool to bring on my friend and have a real conversation. So it isn't an interview, it's a chat. And it's very much the exact kind of conversation that Asan and I have when we're together, which goes...
Maybe Asan was the one who's like, I'm looking for a partner and I don't know how to do it. And she's like, write it down in your journal. Look at my life. It's perfect. He's like, oh my God, you're so right.
All over the place. We talk about breaking up with someone. We talk about social constructs like marriage or believing that you have to go to college or whatever other ideology that we buy into because it's the way that we were raised. We talk about unconscious bias and how it's written into the algorithm and the code. And we do, yes, absolutely get into a conversation about simulation theory. All of that happens before we actually remember to talk about tour. So if you want to hear us chat.
She literally talked for 2 hours on Lisa Bilyeu's podcast before she mentioned the tour. It's like, that's your job to promote this tour. And yet here we are.
Anything and everything. This is the episode to listen to while you do something else. But this is my chat with Asan, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed getting to catch up with my friend. Hi, I'm Rachel Hollis, and this is my podcast.
The amount of times I have to click fast forward in this intro in my car. Oh, look at the kitty, pull my hand. Oh. It's like a 45-second intro because it's like 1, 2, 3. It's still going on. 3 15-second skips.
The intention behind wanting to have a tour in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is that I
Wait, hold on. Well, that wasn't the beginning of a sentence. Let me go back just to make sure.
This podcast. The intention behind wanting to have a tour in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is that I personally am missing community. I'm missing community. And so I figure if I'm missing community, then maybe other people are as well.
Yeah.
And there's like the most...
Oh yeah, you're not going to hear from Asan for quite a while. So if you're wondering who he is, what he's about, we're not going to know for quite some time.
Amazing connection happens not when you meet someone and you're like, oh, you look like me, you think like me, you vote like me, but when you meet someone that you're like, oh, you too.
Yeah.
Like you're also doing this thing that I'm trying to do. You're also dreaming of this other, you're also like kind of not sure what to do with your life now. You're also, what is it? C.S. Lewis, the most powerful words in the English language are me too.
Yeah.
And I think that when you get...
The most powerful words in the English language that I came up with are still I rise. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, they're in a community and you find people that have similarities to you. Number one, it makes you feel not so alone, but it also means that, I don't know, I feel like it gives you like such a boost. It gives you power. You're like, okay, hell yeah, let's do this. Now you have someone you can.
Also, just for the record, when I did the online Rach Talk thing, which was like a part of the ticket, buying a ticket to the Rach Talk live online class, I'm almost positive every single person was white, a white woman, at least for the people who had their cameras on. I did not have my camera on. But everyone that I could see their picture was a white woman between 35 and 60, probably, which I would imagine is her demo and has always been her demo.
When it's hard, it's like, as a parent of a toddler, then you meet another mom who's a parent of a toddler. You're like, oh girl, call me if you start crying over potty training. Like, I'll get you. It's incredible when you think about the fact that we did, I want to say this for people who are listening who may not know this. I'll do an intro so that they know who you are.
Gotcha.
But you and Jack.
He's like, gotcha, because they don't know what the hell I'm doing here and why I'm here. And I actually don't know what I'm doing here either.
So the three of us on this call have been at every Rise conference since the very first one.
Check this.
Also, okay, sorry, I need to keep stopping it, but like, not that you can't hire men as your support system and like people who help you on tour, but you know, there's women DJs, there's women videographers. Hello, we exist. You know, not to say that you should discriminate against men when hiring, but you know, you're as a women empowering conference, and especially about women doing things that the boys can do. Like, I always like to see women crews as well, and it's surprising that she hires men to be the DJ or to be the videographer, and then reference them and talk to them all the time. Like, she has a female staff, or she has used to, I don't know if she still does, but she had like, you know, but it seems like she really highlights the men, which is sort of just something of note to note. Bye, Carol.
I still got my my water bottle.
Oh, I love that bottle. That's so cool. I forgot
it.
about that one.
Yeah.
It's incredible to think, you know, 2017, we have this crazy idea to do this event. Sammy and I are on an airplane. We're talking about, literally the idea was, we all went to the same church. And I'm not sure if everybody knows this story, but we all went to the same church. And Sammy and I really wanted to throw an event that was not based in faith. Because we were like, well, we have incredible community in our church, and we get to come together and have dinners and go to events and do all these things as a group. But what does it look like if you're not part of our church? What if you're Muslim? What if you're Jewish? What if you're atheist? And maybe you wouldn't feel comfortable coming.
Again, we're 5 minutes in. I have not heard this man say one word.
Into a space that has a religious, you know, foundation.
Sure,
So we wanted to create a space that felt like, you said, like that agape love, that felt like that community and that sense of fun and that connection. But it didn't matter who you were, what you believed in, what you looked like, you were welcome here.
Yeah.
And so we literally, on that first plane ride, Sammy was like, maybe we could get a song.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know you. You were the drummer. Like, that's how I was like, the drummer is a DJ?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so funny because from the very first event, that sort of back and forth between the two of us like became that foundation of the event, which if you've been to a Rise conference before, you know what we're talking about and you know who Hassan is. And they're probably tripping out right now to like hear like how we
Let him talk. Let him talk. He hasn't spoken yet. Katie, thank you. Says, please be a volunteer when you go to tour, Kia. Yeah, I you know, I really love giving my labor away for free in exchange for, you know, a $25 ticket. However, I will say that some of the ticket prices, when they add up, you know, with like taxes and such, it goes from like $25 to like $100 real quick. Just saying, that's not necessarily her thing, but anytime I buy a ticket, I'm like, oh, okay, $25. And then all of a sudden by the end, it's like, how did this become $75? So I guess it could be good in that case to be a volunteer, but I'm not feeling volunteerism anymore. If I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to do it for some cause I care about, not to help another person, woman or man, get richer on my behalf.
Their building's bigger than yours, and their furniture's nicer than yours.
Dave said it first.
This is just stupid.
Agreed. Okay, back to Rachel. Thank you, Katie.
Suffice.
Talking about simulation theory.
Yeah, simulation theory. Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredible to imagine how far it's come, and like here we are now for the first time going to different cities and trying this new experiment. I'm so excited, and it really is because like it's that community thing. You know, we sent out an email. Because for each city, we were looking for a couple volunteers. Literally, we just want people to greet. Like when you come in the door, we want you know, someone who's going to love on the women who are coming in, the women in like the three.
Why don't you hire somebody to do that? That's a job, Rachel. That's what they call a career, or at least a one-night career. Greeters at Walmart, they get paid. Why can't your ladies get paid? I'm just confused. To greet people at the door, pay them.
Dudes that those women dragged along to the event.
Yeah.
We wanted people who could like love on them and like say hello and make them feel comfortable. You know how we do.
Yeah.
And so we had sent out this call for volunteers, and not only did we get such an incredible response, but it's like our volunteers who have volunteered at every event we've ever, you know, it's so the same women. And they like bought a ticket to the event but still want to volunteer. So I'm so excited. Are you feeling excited? How are you feeling about tour?
Wait, they bought a ticket and they have to volunteer? What the fuck? Rachel, you better refund them.
This situation is a red flag.
You better give them a perk of some sort and not a fucking journal. Please.
I am super excited. I think there's something truly special about like those spaces that you help to curate. Like I think the experiences that happen there are like crazy. Like
he's finally speaking, everybody, at 7 minutes. 7 minutes and 20 seconds. I mean, we did like a minute intro of her talking about what happened to dinosaurs.
What happened to dinosaurs?
So
they're so dope. Like it's so beautiful. The energy of it is like unmatched. Like it truly is like the vision that you set out with Sammy on the plane, like truly came to fruition. Like there's like, the energy is unmatched. Like everyone coming together from different walks of life and stuff like that. And I think it's important to go to these cities where like, cause I think of these cities all the time where like just people who are, you know, from a smaller town who don't run into a lot of people who are very different from them, coming together at a place where they're going to experience people either who have flown in from other places or what you offer, even people that are somewhat close to them, but they're all attracted to the space that you're curating. And so they're all gathering around this like mutual interest of this experience. And I think it's so cool to have those people have a chance to meet each other and to become friends and to do all that. Like, it's beautiful. Like there's not a lot of intentional, opportunities to do that are
These comments are so funny. Yeah, it seems like she's like, tell them what I said to say, honey. Tell them what this reminds me of that Heidi video where she's like, I never forced you guys to work out, right? Right? Tell the cameraman, tell the stranger man that I don't force you to work out, right? Yeah, it seems a little bit forced.
And that are also like especially geared for a female audience, like that we need more of that. Like I think that's so cool. It's so
we
dope.
have so much fun, and I think it's worth asking because people who haven't been to an event before, they see the video of like everybody dancing, everybody jumping up, and they're like, what the hell is going on at this event? Like, why are these people? And I know it might seem weird to combine like dancing to Beyonce and personal development, but it really works.
Of course.
That's what everyone does, though. That's what every girl boss event is like. That's why she fits so well into the MLM space, because you go to Beachbody, they got tunes pumping. Actually, someone sent this to me, and I really, it's from a group that I really like. It's like a nonprofit group that was set up. It's called Seek Safely. Hold on. And it's a group basically that came out after the guy, James Arthur Ray Sweat Lodge thing happened. And those three people were killed. Many more were hospitalized. And one of the victims' families wanted to create a nonprofit to help people who are interested in spirituality, interested in self-help, do it more safely. It's a really cool nonprofit. We're going to have some sort of collab in the future. But they have a list. They have like a good checklist of like, is a live event set up to make you like buy or manipulate you? And some of the things on the list, like beware of, she's describing right here as like the reason why it's so good. So let me find it. It was like, I think we can kind of, sort of like look at it and see, because she's like, oh, dancing, a lot of physical activity. If the room is really cold, if the hours are really, now this is not a Rise where like the hours are like, 12-hour days, 15-hour days, sometimes. Not her necessarily, but these self-help groups go forever, and they're like, oh, it's like Tony Robbins is like hours and hours and hours. Like, wow, that's, I get so much value. It's like, no, they're trying to wear you down. So let me find it, and we can go through it too. But okay, so first, kind of not red flag, but doesn't necessarily mean that you're being changed long term just because you're dancing and moving your body and feeling good for an hour. Doesn't mean that that's like going to change your life.
Because it makes it fun. 2, because it keeps your energy up. And when your energy's up, you're so much more prone to like belief in yourself, having courage, talking to a stranger, the whole thing. But we also, that was just us. We just wanted to have a good time. We wanted to play music. We wanted to joke around. We want people to laugh. We want people to cry. Like, it's the full spectrum of everything. So I think if there is one misconception about the events that we throw, it's that they see people dancing in their like seats or jumping up and down. And they're like, oh, what are these? Bro, Assange's just playing something sick and people want to move and it works. It's just a vibe. It's a party, but it's also teaching and connecting. And I'm so excited.
Is she like trying to claim that like she's the first person who's ever had music at an event before? It's like, look at any event. Look at prom. Like, what do you do at prom? You play music. Look at any wedding. You play music and it's a fun environment. And she also has alcohol at these events. So it's like, you got all the steps, but you didn't come up with the concept of dancing and feeling good. Okay, so here's the website, Seek Safely. Highly recommend if you have people that are like, I mean, this might not be a subtle way to tell them like, look at this. But if you have people that are involved in like self-help and are sort of going off the deep end and don't know how to talk to them, this is a good resource to look to. But if you have to sign if asked to sign a waiver without time to review the contents, being told it's just standard and being discouraged from asking any questions, if there's a physical challenge as part of the program, but no information is offered about medical support in case of an accident. Okay, that's a red flag. So I don't hear that with hers too much, but okay. And then during the event, another red flag, a highly packed schedule with little time to process information. Okay, that sort of sounds like, a Tony Robbins conference. Very short breaks that do not allow adequate time to get a meal, have snacks, use the restroom, or properly hydrate. A locked door or strong discouragement from leaving the room at any time. A day that begins very early, ends late, and interferes with normal sleep needs. If breathing techniques or guided meditation is used that cause a sense of disorientation or confusion. I wonder if she's going to have breath work / meditation, probably some sort of meditation, because she did at Rise a lot of meditations at that. Feeling uncomfortable about highly emotional revelations individuals may be encouraged to make in public. Now, this is, I think, going to be a part of this. Like, Rachel tries to match Tony Robbins in the sense where she's like, at Rise conference at Austin, the most recent one, where there was like 40 people in the audience. She's like, who did you want to love more, your dad or your mom? And that's something that he does too. And it's totally invasive, has nothing to do with running your fucking bakery or whatever business you're running. And, first of all, if you're running like an Herbalife, you're not running a business. So let's just, it's not an MLM thing. But if you were running a legitimate business, like, dealing with your trauma with an unlicensed charlatan is not going to help you. So I do fear that that's what's going to happen at this live event. Okay, atmosphere in the room. If it's cold, I don't know, loud blaring music at the introduction and during breaks. Probably so you can't ask questions to like your neighbor, like, is this crazy or what? A cheerleading pep rally atmosphere with volunteers dancing, jumping around, pumping up the energy. Again, these are all red flags that this group has come up with. I mean, that sounds like what she's describing. Okay, speaker's behavior relies heavily on testimonials to establish credibility. The success of the speaker is hyped, encouraging emulation. Sounds familiar. Speaker repeatedly asks for a group response with certain words or phrases. The speaker constantly repeats key phrases. Made for more. I mean, that's one of them. Limited access to the speaker to ask questions. Okay, little reference to distinctions between opinions, speculation, or scientific research is offered. I think she says, like, scientifically, the law of attraction. It's like, no. Speaker dismisses or belittles professional credentials and mainstream education. I mean, in that Kathy video, she said, you don't need to be certified. No. Not saying that's what she's going to say here, but, you know, sounds a little like she could go down that path. Now, I don't think she does this too much. This is sort of more like the hard sales pitch people, the high ticket item people, where it's constant reminders about additional products that can be purchased, books, CDs, other programs, emphasis on scarcity, only a limited number left, or something heavily discounted, only if purchased immediately, a no refund or limited refund policy. So I don't think she really is part of that, but, you know, a strong combination of sensory deprivation tactics and exploration of highly charged emotional experiences. These tactics are used to break down a person, creating vulnerability, suggestibility, and compliance. These same tactics are used to torture enemies to extract information. So, not saying that this event is specifically going to do that, but just when she talks about some of the things that are so exciting about, you know, what's to come at these things, it's just good to keep in mind, like, it's a slippery slope. So, you know, having a breakthrough, I agree. Heidi Powell's events definitely sounds like more in line with all of those things. And I think we should bring up that list more often. But okay, back to Rach talking about possibly dangerous event.
And I have an idea.
Yep, let's do it.
I have an idea that I want to hear your thoughts on / present to the community for the first time. So for as long as we've done these events, we've always had a handful of songs that are like our songs. So like classic is the Macklemore song. We've danced to that song at every single Rise conference we've ever done. And of course it's going to like, we have to, because, you know, this is our thing. This is my song choice. I love it. But I thought, wouldn't it be so fun if you and I came up with like 6 songs or 7 songs, I don't know, that pump you up, that make you feel empowered. You know, this is your expertise, so I'll let you dream on this. But at every single city stop, we let the audience choose their theme song for the night.
That'd be great.
So where for like Birmingham, okay, here's what's up. Asan is going to play you a sample of 7 different songs, and based on applause, y'all are going to choose.
You have 2 hours with her. This is a 2-hour event, right? So it's like, this is probably going to take 10 minutes, okay, to get everyone to play the 7 songs, cheer, decide which one it is, then play the song, then dance. So now we're at like, you know, an hour and 50 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna like have some great epiphany in the remaining minutes. Like, is this really important for adults to do, especially if we're you know, pinning this as like a life-changing networking entrepreneurship event? I don't know. Again, it feels like we're infantilizing women.
Your theme song, because what we know, having been to an event, is that those songs become a part of your psyche. When you have an emotional experience, when you set a goal, when you get energized, and a song's playing, for the rest of your life, that song comes on and you're like, okay, let's
100%,
go.
100%.
So yeah, I thought that would be cool if each city got to pick their own theme song. And then wouldn't it be interesting, like, oh, Birmingham went old school. They wanted like 90s hip hop, and Charleston was all about something from today, and these 3 cities pick Beyonce because she's the queen and whatever. Okay, so let's think on that. Let's think on what songs we could present to everybody, because I feel like that'll be a fun moment at the start of the show to like hype people up. Is like, what's your jam? We have to have a full spectrum. Like, we've got to have
Okay, I feel like that was the most basic ass idea I've ever heard.
something older. We have to be able to find out, like, regionally, like, what was the #1 song in Alabama of the 90s or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, we need to research.
I mean,
I have an idea. Is it Sweet Home Alabama? Probably.
How it works. Or maybe there's like, you know, if there's a sports team that's really popular nearby and they have like a song. Because it'd be great to remember when we were in Toronto and we did the best of Canadians and we just played all Canadian artists. For
Like the
an
amount
hour.
of love for Nickelback in Toronto was crazy.
Are so right. Like,
It's crazy, guys. Everyone picked Burn the Bridges as They Burn. Or what was it? Burn the Bridges as We Run. Whatever her song was that she co-wrote with those artists in Nashville. It's like every city wanted it. Ugh. She just puts it in and then lists and goes, I think the applause was the loudest there. I think the Bridges Burning song, that's the one I think we're going to go with.
no offense to our Canadian brethren and sisters. That was shocking.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
Yeah.
Rachel.
We have a lot of really great friends from Canada.
How dare you?
What wasn't it like? Look at this photograph. Those women lost their shit.
Yeah.
Like they're still screaming. Who knew?
And
That
not
was
even
such a move.
not even screaming at Nickelback, the band on stage, like just literally me pressing play on a Nickelback song and they're losing their minds.
That was so funny.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I forgot about that. Oh my word.
Yep.
And we got to give it up because Canada had
Canada. I like Canada better.
Yeah, Canada had a lot of performers that I didn't even realize were Canadian. Yeah, they had, because you just kept going. I was like,
What about Avril? Canada's got a lot of good artists. Okay, how dare you? As a former Canadian who now lives in the United States, Albanese says, "Is Rach ever gonna let Asan talk?" The answer is no. The answer is
No.
will Asan talk?
Bold-faced lie.
Asan's gonna talk a lot.
Bold-faced lie.
I think we've reached the point of the show where
There's Colleen.
I try my hardest to not work.
same girl. I ain't gonna lie. I try my hardest not to work too. Let's check in with before we go on. Let's check in with our favorite homie, Lisa. Lisa, have you changed your routine? What's going on? Where are you updated? What's going on now with you? Where are you?
I'm outside the Cheesecake Factory waiting for it to open.
Okay, she's still there. Hasn't opened yet. Guess it hasn't opened yet in in England. Okay.
certainly we've hit all. You were like, no, let's get Shania. Let's get Bieber.
Let's get Drake.
Mendez. Let's get Drake.
The biggest artist in the world.
Yeah. Is
Canada.
Drake the biggest artist in the world?
I
Would
think
you
that is
say?
actually Bad Bunny right now. Bad Bunny's gigantic.
Okay, wait a minute. Are you a movie guy?
Yeah,
Do you like movies?
I
Have you
do.
seen Bullet Train?
I have not yet. Is it good?
Asan, it's so good. And I didn't know Bad Bunny was in it.
Yeah.
It was a character, and then my son told me that that was Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, important for all listeners. Frankly, if you're still hanging after the conversation we had today,
Yeah.
you're going to love Bullet Train too.
Exactly.
It's very like Tarantino vibes,
Okay.
not fully, but like Kill Bill. Please go see it. I had never even heard of it. I just wanted to go to the movies. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to go to the movies. I wanted to have a cocktail. My kids were with their dad. I was like, let's do it. It's Brad Pitt.
She always wants to tell you about the cocktails. There's nothing wrong with that, but I find it very suspicious that she always mentions cocktails when she has called herself an alcoholic. I still find that hard to wrap my head around without her saying, like, I've decided that I can handle it and I'm okay. Like, it's just been, I'm an alcoholic, or I'm a former alcoholic, whatever she said on Oprah stage. And then now she's like, cocktails, I don't know. It just bothers me.
Sorry, I'm a 39-year-old woman. I'm not made of stone. It's Brad Pitt. It's so well done. I laughed. I cried. The action is phenomenal, and the writing is incredible. And it's like that guy's first screenplay ever. So screw him
Wow.
because it's too good to be the first thing that ever gets made of yours. So
That's crazy.
Oh, highly recommend.
Is this your favorite era of Brad?
Great support for fellow creators. Fuck you. You just have to put out 10 books before you can be recognized like me.
I do not give a fuck.
She does not give a fuck about Bad Bunny or the screenwriter of this movie.
Do you have another favorite era of Brad Pitt?
I mean, I'm sorry, like Legend of the Fall into, you know what? I can't even choose because I was about to say into Fight Club. Those are two completely different eras. Remember
Yeah.
Fight Club when he had that
Yes.
stomach? Come
Yes.
on. You know what? Can he do wrong? I don't
No, he
think
can't.
it's possible.
No, he's great.
He's never done anything wrong. I mean, I feel
Didn't they have a fight on a plane recently, or they came out with that? Brad Pitt and Angelina. I don't know what his role in it was, but that's sort of wrong, right?
that breakup with Angelina was maybe not the best. But in terms of movies, oh, did you see Maverick? Did you see Top Gun?
Yeah, I totally did. Yeah.
How good was that?
So good. I've seen it twice. It's really good. I enjoyed it a lot, actually.
Can we look? Okay, controversial topic, controversial statement.
Yeah.
Fucking Tom Cruise.
He's a psycho in like the best way possible.
In the best way possible. Also, like, openly the leader of a very dangerous, hurtful cult. Like, everybody knows. Nobody's confused. They're probably gonna like sue me for saying that. Everybody knows. And damn it, you're just like, he's too good.
Can I join though? You know who's also a member of that cult? Grant Cardone, everybody. At least he was formerly. Probably still is. Interesting.
Yeah.
He's too good.
He's real good at making like really good movies.
Yeah. And if you think about it, there was a long period of time where we didn't hear from Tom. And then he was like, okay, I'm just going to bring back Mission Impossible, but I'm going to do all my own stunts. And they're going to be so insane that you're just going to still love me. Like, he went crazy very publicly for a while. Like, remember he was jumping up and down on Oprah's stage and like Katie Holmes and the whole.
Where have you been, Rachel? Do you remember that Tom Cruise, you know, he was on Oprah? What was this, 1997? My God, everyone knows this already. Do you remember? I was like, ugh, stop. Thank you, Beth, for that. Thank you very much for the Shiba dog with sparkles in their eyes saying, my hero, my hero. Beth Peters. Okay. For that, I will say about Tom Cruise.
This person is not okay.
And Rachel, actually.
Me.
This person is not okay. Who?
Me.
Thanks, Beth.
I was like, this man's insane. And here, I hate myself. But I saw Maverick and I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
This is so good.
Yeah, it's when you like when I look at someone like Tom Cruise, like Scientology aside, like I look at someone like that and I'm like, I'm so glad he's using his like insanity for things that people enjoy. You know what I mean? Because he could totally be using his insanity to do all kinds of things. Like he could probably take over the world if he wanted to.
That we know of.
That we know of.
Yeah, we don't know. Behind the scenes, they could be using that level of obsession for all kinds of stuff. But that, honestly, Top Gun, it's real good. And the writing of being able to like have little nods and winks to the original movie, but also do something new and different and fresh. Ugh, so good. Hurts my feelings.
They let him and let him is a stretch. But I like that he was old in this movie. Like they let him be his age and not like pretend like he's like the young hotshot guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they've been doing for so long.
And honestly, his body looks phenomenal for the age that he is. But if you watch it again.
I thought we weren't talking about people's bodies anymore. We were sick of it. We don't want to be judging our bodies, I thought. Rachel, come on.
Please laugh with me in spirit at the scene on the beach where they're playing football.
Oh my goodness.
Because his body, I give him credit. But if you watch that again, please note that every time it cuts to him, like anything below his nipples is in shadow.
Yeah.
It's in shadow. They're like, we are not getting tight on this.
Yeah.
We're not getting direct. Cut to Miles Teller, like dead light, like 6-pack abs, looking young, looking hot. Back to Tom, shadow, like shadow for no reason. It's so funny how they cut that. Yeah. Because it's like, none of us want to say, Tom.
If you haven't seen the movie, which I haven't, none of this is relevant or makes sense other than her talking about how hot Tom Cruise is, which, okay, fine. That's great. But like, I thought she was like above that and like, well, you know, looks aren't everything and it's all about health and whatever. So yeah, we all know that's bullshit, but it just becomes, if that's your stance on things, you start talking about how hot dudes are and about like, oh, their 6-pack abs and stuff. It kind of shows how much you really do care about that, because if the guy wasn't ripped, that wouldn't be like complimented. Like, oh, he's like, an average weight. Oh, I love it. It's like, I mean, I don't care if you think a guy is hot or a woman's hot or whatever, but then you can't also say like, I never care about that. I never, ever, ever judge someone on their body. It's like, yes, you do. Look at this.
Tom Cruise's body looks good for a 6-year-old man.
Yeah.
We just all want to believe that Tom Cruise's body looks good for Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and so does Tom Cruise, for the record. Like, I think he'd be miserable if you said.
Now imagine if Rachel was talking about a woman here. If Tom was Tammy Cruise and she was using the same language and the same nonchalantness, it would not be okay. So as much as, I don't know. I feel like, and I don't know. I do it too, I guess. But like, if you're someone who's, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm being too judgy, but it just seems a lot of talk about his body from someone who says that they don't look at looks or that it's all about what's inside. I don't know.
He was good for a 60-year-old.
Right. Well, also, is he 60? All of a sudden, I was like, maybe he's not that old.
He's probably close to that, I would imagine.
Man, it's ridiculous.
That's got to be hard, though. Like, I couldn't imagine being someone like Tom Cruise or The Rock or like basically any woman in Hollywood, where like the pressure to look a certain way is so.
Tom Cruise is 60, by the way. I just looked it up.
Heavy on you from every direction. Like, I couldn't even imagine. Like, I'm sure you deal with that to a degree. Like, I'm sure there's like you feel some kind of pressure, like to look a certain way, to present yourself a certain way, and like I just couldn't do that.
Hey guys, if you are enjoying.
I'm not enjoying this at all, but I'm going to skip past the Rach Talk Live ad.
And at rate is side hustle. A lot of growth and back to school. But you feel embarrassed to admit it to those people.
It's all the ads, all the keywords. Back to school, woman, mother, ambition, integrity. Come now, buy ticket.
Currently in your circle?
6 everything, 1 hour, $10.
Come build a new one.
Come build
new.
You
can find out more info in the show notes, and I hope I see you there. It's been a lot of growth and therapy and healing for me to believe that I could record this podcast with you and not be wearing makeup.
Yeah.
To believe that like I still have wisdom and value to offer the world and worth if I'm not with a full blowout and full makeup and all that stuff, because that's just how I came up believing that you were supposed to be. So I think that's still an unraveling that exists inside me that I'm actively working on. On the same token of like what it's like to be an actor or to be a celebrity or to be in that industry. Do you ever watch The Shop? LeBron James's show on HBO. It's like my favorite show ever. I've seen all the episodes.
It's a great show.
So good. I was watching the last season. Oh, I'm terrible with athletes. Is it Carmelo Anthony?
Carmelo Anthony? Yeah, he's a basketball player.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, that sounds right. And the episode that he was on, there was him and then another, a woman who was in the WNBA.
Okay.
And they were talking about emotional health and mental health. And he was like, oh, I have a theory. Every professional athlete is depressed.
Jesus. Oh, my God. Oh, Tom Brady, he's going through a divorce possibly. He looks pretty happy most of the time. Okay. How does this have to do with her makeup, though? Her blowout? Like, I don't get it. You're recording audio.
Like, you will not convince me anything else. And they were like, whoa, unpack that, explain. And he was like, you do, if you want to be the best, if you want to be in the upper echelon, if you want to do this work, you're going to do the same thing over and over and over every single day. You're going to do the same routine. You're going to eat the same things. You're going to go to the same place. You got to go to bed. You got to do. And if you work your hardest, if you stay in this routine that's monotonous, if you work your absolute hardest, if you win it all, the second you win, guess what? Tomorrow you got to wake up and you start doing that routine again because you got to be ready for next season. And he was explaining what that felt like. And I never thought, because every other athlete in that circle was like, as soon as he said it, they were all like, yep, that's the truth. This is not fun in the way people, like if you've ever seen that documentary of
I feel like Rachel's take is like, her whole thing, even in the thing with Kathy that we watched last week, the Kathy Heller, Toilegate conspiracy thing where she was saying like celebrities don't get to say their true opinions anymore because people on the internet don't wholeheartedly believe every single thing that they say, and sometimes they say mean things to them, and how somehow that's a tragedy and a travesty. And she was also sticking up for celebrities who get roasted or get negative comments. And I'm not saying she's wrong. I think people who say like you should kill yourself or whatever, yeah, that is wrong. But I think people who just disagree and put it in a comment section don't necessarily need to be shamed completely to the ends of the earth, because people are allowed to have negative comments. You're putting yourself out there. Any piece of work can be critiqued, and because you're your own work, sorry, that's your choice. So her whole take is like celebrities, like how she sees herself, I believe, are, in need of more empathy. She took the train of like the cancel culture. People were just dogpiling on me and I am the poor victim. That seems to be her new path moving forward, that, rich celebrities really need to be empathized with much more than they are, because they're just all depressed too. It's like, if you're all depressed, then, just spread the wealth and that probably will make you happier. Because obviously having a big mansion or whatever, according to Rachel, isn't working. So try something else. Try sharing the money with us. How about that? So we can all afford to get health care. That's all I'm asking. Just give it a shot. It might work.
Brady. His life looks terrible. And he's,
Yeah.
Oh, I just said Tom
never
Brady. Okay, wait. What is she going to say about Tom Brady? I did not reach this part of the podcast, so this is all new to me.
Every other athlete in that circle was like, as soon as he said it, they were all like, yep, that's the truth. This is not fun in the way people, like if you've ever seen that documentary of Tom Brady, his life looks terrible. And he's married to a supermodel. Like he just watches game tapes and eats salmon. Like it's the most monotonous, but that's what it is to be the best. And I guess
She's making a lot of assumptions here. And also, he's a father too. He's got kids who I think he cares greatly about, from what I understand. I haven't watched the documentary, but yeah, she eats salmon too, and she doesn't want to. So you're saying that you're boring and depressed secretly? Like, it's very judgmental about like, oh, his life is so boring. It's like, says you. I don't know. I think that's a leap. I didn't see the documentary that she's referring to, but from the outside, I always thought he was a happy person. I don't know.
that like, what you think later in life that.
And also, she's very high on this like appearances. Like, just because you're married to a supermodel does not mean that all your problems go away, or that, oh, you are with someone physically attractive, oh well, you should just be thrilled with your life. It's like on the other side of what I just said, he can be depressed even though he's married to someone beautiful. It's like, I don't know, it's so superficial, and she sees things superficially too.
It'll pay off.
And
I'm not questioning it because they're way cooler than I am, but
well, sports is, and I think a lot of athletes are waking up to this, but sports is probably one of the most brutal industries. Even, I would say even more so than Hollywood, because I feel like at least in Hollywood, there are still opportunities to create lasting value for people beyond what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Like you can create something, you can go off and be in a movie tomorrow that changes the world forever. And so people stamp actors that they like with a much more lasting sort of transcendent form of value to them. And with athletes, it's much more about what are you doing for me right now? And the moment you leave a team and you're playing for a different team, no one likes you anymore. The moment you blow your knee out and can't play anymore, you're of zero value to the rest of the world. And like, sure, there are some athletes that have lasting legacies, but the bar for that amongst professional athletes is so high. Like you can.
And I know this is just like a joke, or like not what you meant by it, but it reminded me, there's a really good documentary. Michael Phelps is a part of it. It's about Olympic athletes who actually like go through real depression. I'm not saying that what she's referring to is not real depression, or, NFL players can't have depression, but, I think have struggled in the medical sense of the word, not like they're bored because they have a routine. But it really opened my eyes. It came out like 2 years ago or 3 years ago about how a lot of the, the excitement of going to the Olympics, but you're not allowed to make money because it has to be amateur sports, and how like it really came down to money, because once they were out of the sport, or they had to choose between entering a professional, league or group, or, whatever, or stay in the Olympic system, which is like, once you do it, it doesn't mean you have money. So a lot of them, they came out of it after they retired and they were depressed. They had to go back to work. All they have done their whole life is like train for this one thing, and they became depressed. That's a real conversation I think we should all be having. And I think that documentary sparked a lot. That's not this conversation. This was like, oh, you have a hot girlfriend, you should just get over it. And I wish there was more depth to it, because what they're dipping their toe in is interesting to me and is relevant and is something that I think relates to a lot of people who are successful on the outside, like Rachel, but are suffering on the inside. But it's like, because it's so superficial, we just never get there, and it's disappointing to kind of waste our time tiptoeing around a real issue. Anyways.
Actor and just have a small role in a commercial that like changes I'm like Flo from Progressive or something like that. Like you can be that, like, and no shade to Flo, because she's hilarious, and like what they've built is like one of the best advertising campaigns of all time.
Yes.
But like you could be, one of the greatest athletes in the world, and if you don't live up to a certain level of potential that completes the narrative that people have in their head about you, then like you're of zero value. And so it's extremely brutal. Like and a lot of athletes are waking up to that. There's a lot of earlier retirements than there have been before, because people are getting the value that they would like out of professional sports, and then they're done, because it's like, why continue to damage my body if like it's not bringing the type of value that they want,
Well, I think when you see those stories, like,
we should also be talking about CTE as well in football players, because that's another thing that really opened my eyes, is learning about that, and how so many of the people in the NFL, that aren't like Tom Brady status, that are the lower teams, the practice squads, they're getting their heads smacked every day. And then later on in life, like they're struggling with all these impairments. And then people like Dr. Amen, who we were just talking about, earlier, Rachel's brain scan doctor, he will say, oh, I can check your CTE and I can look in the scan, and he'll rip you off. This one guy, it got worse. He spent like, something insane, like $100,000 on, Dr. Amen's CTE assistance, and it did nothing for him. That's another sports thing that I think we should talk about too, as like, I'm not really, Rachel Hollis needs to talk about that, but something that I feel very inspired by. It's like, what's the worth of putting yourself through that later in life? There's many, many cases where people don't end up doing well after the NFL. But again, we probably won't get there. It's like, she's making bank.
There's a documentary. It's incredible about Tony Hawk. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. Okay. So good. But you don't even understand. He's one example. But I never could have understood how destroyed his body is.
Oh, yeah. It's nuts.
Brutalized. And he's not even a football player who's getting slammed into again and again and again. Uh-huh. And these athletes are literally destroying their bodies in order to perform. And it's exactly what you said. The second that they stop being relevant, nobody cares anymore. That nobody team cares. Doesn't care. Those fans don't care. Mm-hmm. What kind of crazy existence is this, like chasing worth, right? If I can just do the right thing, if I can just throw this touchdown, but if something happens to you and you're hurt, you're screwed. It is so wild.
Yeah. You have to, that's why.
So solutions? No? Okay. Just something. I don't have a solution either, but I'm not a empowerment, life-changing coach. So, I would like to know what she thinks we should do about this.
It's important to find internal sources of value and validation, because no matter what career you're in, if you're looking for it only externally, like, you're going to be let down. And I think athletes are just like a hyper version of that, like a hyper magnetized version of that,
Yeah. It's so real too. The idea that we're taught societally that it's what's outside us. Yeah. It's how much money can you make? It's what's the new thing that you can buy. It's how do you look? It's who are your friends? Where do you live? All of those things. And it's all fake. The only thing, really, honestly, it's what's inside you. Mm-hmm. The only thing that's ever going to make you happy, whole, complete, content, any of those emotions that you're pursuing, it's always, always going to be what is inside yourself. Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to hear that, because that's the hardest work there is to do. It's so much easier to have a drink. It's so much easier to go buy something that makes you feel good. It's so much easier to go spend time with a friend who's going to hype you up than it is to go meet with a therapist again this week and unpack your shit again this week. And it's slow. It's not fast. It's not, it doesn't numb you. You got to feel every single second of it. But that's the only real authentic, like, how do we get to be who we really want to be?
Do you want to take a vote to nixay this conversation, or do you want to keep watching, listening? I am bored as well. It's been like, did you see this documentary about Tony Hawk? Did you see this documentary about Tom Brady? Did you see that Tom Cruise is hot? Like, okay, it's sort of boring. I think this is why I've like sort of turned it off before as well. And him going, yes. We can move on to something else. And this is what it really looks like. I need to set up my camera. I can do my phone to be a second camera, and I can have like a tarot cam. I think that would be a good addition to the show. Let's see. Nix it. Can we fast forward to the tour talk? I'm bored. Yeah, me too. Okay. Let's go forward.
Everyone like cheers for them or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I think most people will stay inside of something because they don't want to be the bad guy.
Like kind of coming back to mindfulness, sort of being in the moment and like thinking of yourself as having future moments.
Let's see.
And setting yourself up with the commitments that you make now to like be able to show up well in the future, like in a moment-to-moment basis, I think is important. And like no lifetime commitment, I think is worth sacrificing that. You know what I mean? If those issues arise.
Well, I mean, I think it's going back to sort of what was the intention at the beginning of that. Your relationship, in my past relationship, the intention was pure and honest and like, this is what we're doing. And in both of our cases, it sounds like getting to a point where you realize something was not working or
okay, now she's talking about Dave, I'm assuming,
right anymore, and trying harder and doubling down and what can we do and let's unpack this and all those things. But if you've honestly done what you can do to make this thing work, but you know in your heart of hearts that it's just not right, I think most people will stay inside of something because they don't want to be the bad guy, because they don't want to hurt this person that they love, because they don't want the opinions of other people to come out.
Most people won't get up at 4 a.m. Most people won't get divorced publicly to their husband named Dave Hollis.
And it's a really, like, without question, the most difficult decision I've ever made, the hardest time period, like not even done yet, like still a hard time period. And I wouldn't trade it for anything because it was the right decision for me. Yeah. And I think that gets so much flack, especially for women, because you're not supposed to make a choice like that.
Says
that is
who?
not a societal norm for a woman to decide, like, you know what? This is
Girl, you've been in a bubble too long. Divorce is okay now.
The right thing. I don't feel like this is healthy for me. And if it's not healthy for me, it cannot be healthy for my children. And so I'm going to make this decision in spite of what other people think of it, and be willing to deal with all of the fallout that comes from that. Because even in the shit, even in like the process of walking through hell, it's still better because at least it's honest.
Yeah, it's honest and it's compassionate to, I think, both people in the situation, in the relationship. Because if you truly love someone that you're in a relationship with, and you
are you even thinking about someday when you date again? Is that scary? Is that, because when I broke up, I was like, I will never I don't even want to see another man. Like, F all this, screw love. Like, I wasn't making a decision because I wanted someone else. I was making a decision because I wanted to choose myself.
Yeah, I hear you. Where I'm at now is like...
But then 1 year later, I was making content about him. And it benefited me greatly.
The idea, I think there's a lot we've gotten to. Is this still in concept of going to...
I'm sorry, I have nothing against this guy, but I don't really care what he has to say.
That is...
Growing up, and everything was about this idea of getting married.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started dating Kez, I was like, oh wait, do we have to get married? Like, if I want to be with this person, are we supposed to get married? Because know the culture that we come from. Like, that's so ingrained in my head. And I actually think it's so beautiful to be in a relationship where both of us are choosing to be here.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot express enough.
Wait, what? You and Dave weren't choosing to be together? He forced you? What?
How this is not everybody's story, but that when you're in a really long-term marriage, it starts to feel a bit like we're here because we married each other.
Right.
And the idea that both of us are here and we're in this thing because we choose to be, like, every day I wake up and I choose you, and every day he wakes up and he's like, I choose you, and we're doing this thing together.
Yeah.
Is so beautiful and is so different than how I was raised to believe a relationship was supposed to be. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if you're in your 80s and you're like,
I'm so confused. Like, what? Like, you and Dave weren't choosing to be together and to also have marriage conferences about how amazing your marriage was. Like, the narrative has changed so much. It's so crazy the way she talks about Dave now, like as if, like, you know, for years he had been hiding in the background, and then you know, she's like, by the way, we got divorced. Just, you know, sorry, it wasn't working. Like, he was front and center until the very end of, you know, their relationship. I wrote it down, I think, in my Rachel Hollis timeline. They talked about, dang, no, I didn't put it in there. There was one, it was like, you know, like in April or something. They got divorced in June, or they announced it. They talked about it in May. In April, they were doing like podcast episodes about how their makeout sessions had gotten better, which is like their sex life had improved since quarantine. So it wasn't like, again, like she's rewriting history like, oh yeah, we didn't like each other for years. It's like, what? This is so crazy to me. Like, of course, like, oh, Kez and I are perfect though.
Here choosing you. Like, there's no contract that says I have to be here. There's no, like, none of that is there. It's just this choice. It's like Goldie.
That was the only thing keeping you in the relationship with Dave. Come on. Was the marriage certificate? Really? Come on.
And Kurt Russell. I mean, this is, or Oprah and Stedman. Like, they all had it figured out, and none of the rest of us did. Do you remember because how old are you?
I'm 31.
31. Okay,
Same.
so I'm a little older, and I don't even know if this is going to translate. But do you remember how, like, in the 90s, 2000s, like, the fact that Oprah and Stedman weren't married, the fact that Kurt and Goldie weren't married, it was so controversial.
Yeah.
Like, these people had been together
Kitty.
for like 40 years or 30 years or 20 years. And it was so crazy. It was such a, like, oh my God, Hollywood's mad. Hollywood's just wild that people could be together and not be married.
And you know what's crazy is, like, yeah, I think there is something.
This sounds like Heidi in like the cool girl way. Like, Rachel's like, I don't even care. Like, look at Oprah and Stedman. They're not married. Like, that's what I've always believed in. Meanwhile, being in like a, 20-year marriage. Stop it. Kitty. I can't give you any more space. She's in a, whatever. It was like 18 years or 18 stinking year marriage or something like that, close to that. Like, okay, now she's like, I don't even care about marriage. It's like, yeah, well, you've been through one, so now you don't have to be. No one's saying you have to get married again, But it's almost like Heidi saying, like, putting engagement balloons in the background and people asking, why aren't you engaged? And then go, ask Dave. I don't know. Like, I'm fine with it. I actually am too busy to get married. But then, alluding to it constantly. And like, she's bringing it up too, like, did I have to get married? No, I made a choice that I don't. It's like, yeah, if he asked you though, would you say yes? Like, that's the question I want to know. Or like, he's never been married before, has no kids. So it makes more sense for him to continue that lifestyle moving forward. I don't know. It just seems like she is excusing it. Like, I never wanted to be married. Like, okay. And I'm sure you would be married to this guy too. Because, like, again, like, you're not casually dating other people. So it seems.
Specifically about them being, I'm assuming they're monogamous, but I think there's something about them being monogamous and not married that ruffles people's feathers more than if they were non-monogamous and not married, which is insane to me.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think we've romanticized the idea of marriage so that more people do it. Marriage to me is a lot like college. Like, we've romanticized the idea of going to college because we want more people to go to college. We want people to be educated. And we've done that with marriage because if we're going to be honest about marriage as an institution, it really does make certain things easier, especially for young people. Like, if I'm, in my mid 20s and I want to go buy a house, right? It becomes much easier, even if I'm just trying to rent a place, it becomes much easier if I have two incomes attached to my name. Becomes, there are all kinds of tax incentives when you start having kids. If I want to just raise a kid, a lot of times it's much easier with two people around. Like, I think there's these like concrete advantages to being married that I think
It's even easier if you have a sister wife, less housework, split it up, communal living. I mean, if you get benefits for that, you get double the benefits if you have more people living there.
Serve people especially when they're younger, when they're trying to establish themselves. But I think there's nothing wrong with like when you get like acknowledging the reality of that, because as I think we're starting to do now with higher education is like we're looking, it's like, well, maybe everybody doesn't need to go to college. Like, you know what I mean?
Beans has this great joke that she always talks about because her and Sammy don't want to have kids. And her joke is always that people are like, when are you guys going to have kids? You should have kids. Why don't you want to have kids? But she's like, you just spent 30 minutes telling me how terrible it is to be a parent. Yeah. Nothing about what you just described would make me want to.
Rachel, you have 4 children. You missed your chance to have a child-free life. Sorry. One of them is in kindergarten, so you got a long time to go. And it's like, all these feelings and things are fine, but like you made your choices. Now you got to like live with them, unfortunately. It just makes me feel kind of bad for the kids, how she's like celebrating. Like, I don't want to be married and being a parent's horrible. So, how would you feel if you're the kid that didn't ask to be born? I don't know. My mom did this to me. So again, I'm projecting my own feelings, but my mom was always like, she liked being a mom in some aspects, but it was more like, I could have done better things. I could have had a life. I could have been thinner. The pregnancy made me so fat. And like, not that she was saying, I don't want you necessarily directly to my face, but that was the message I was taking. Like, you better be perfect or else like, I'm already disappointed that you are here. So, if you don't make everything super smooth and easy for me, then I'm going to be even more pissed. And so you internalize that as a kid. So I feel bad for her children. I'm not saying that she's saying that directly, but I don't know. You got to be very careful what you say when you have little kids. They can't comprehend the nuance of like, if I would have changed things, but I wouldn't change things. It's slippery slope.
Yeah. And they're like, no, but it's great. It'll be different when it's your baby. And I feel like parenting is another one of those things that society tells us is for everyone, and it's not.
It's not for everyone.
It is not. It is like, I as you know, I have 4 children. Here's this thing that I just had this epiphany yesterday, Hassan. My 4 kids, I got 15, 14, 10, and 5. My 4 kids do not care that I am parenting 3 other children. Do you know what I mean? Like, they, in their mind, they are the only creature in the universe. It does not matter to them that mommy just spent the whole day shuttling one kid around for baseball, taking care of a 5-year-old, helping the 9-year-old with a science project. Like, the 15-year-old, the second there's a free opening, Jackson's like, oh, Mom, remember you said that you were going to help me with that thing? And I'm like, I am. That's right. And it's only taken me 15 years to realize they don't give a crap that you're tired.
They're children.
They don't care that you work full time. They don't care. Parenting is so damn hard. It's unbelievable. Rewarding, amazing. I love my kids. So hard. And society would tell every single person, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of whether or not they're interested in it, regardless of their emotional well-being, their mental health, regardless of any of it, like, you got to have that baby though. You got to have that baby. It's like it's exactly what you're talking about. This idea that there are all of these things that we've just always done. Well, it's the way it's always been done. And so we fall into a pattern or a rhythm or a process and just kind of follow and do what everyone else is doing. And I think what we're seeing, I feel like this happens in your 30s.
Again, like, you know, she's not saying it outwardly, but it would make me feel bad as a kid too, like to be hearing this from your parent, like, my kids just want attention and they want me to care about them, and I have other kids to care about, and I have a career to worry about, and, you know, come on, guys. Like, 5-year-old child who is also adopted and gone through like a divorce, you know, all the kids went through the divorce as well, and now they're being shuffled around between houses and flown out to Arizona and back, and with another girlfriend and another boyfriend. Like, there's no sympathy for them. Like, as much as, like, you know, she has to work on projects with them and whatever, like, they also are going through all the romantic issues you're going through on the child side. So it just makes me feel like, keep this off of your podcast. Like, the kids can hear it. If they don't hear it, great, I'm happy. But at the same time, it makes you look like a jerk. Like, at the very least, like, I understand you can have these feelings. I'm not saying these feelings are not real or shouldn't be had. Have whatever feeling, but it does brings it to a weird place when it's like, I don't know, when you're talking about it publicly. Okay, I'm just going to see if there's anything else, and then we're going to switch gears because I'm bored.
And I'm super excited to head into my 40s. I feel like that's about to be the decade. But I feel like you start to question a lot of the things that you used to believe. Mm-hmm. And that the older you get, the more you have the courage to voice those questions and go, wait a minute, I don't know if this is for me. And is that okay? Like, am I allowed to be here if I don't want to do the things that you think I should be doing?
Yeah.
What? You're going to leave your kids? Do not leave your children. You don't have to be a wife anymore, but yeah, you kind of do have to do that. You're in charge of these children. Come on.
I think that's an important point. I've been saying this a lot too. I think
skipping.
Structured way, relationships continue evolving.
It's not abnormal now to expect to live to 80, 90, even 100. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, it used to be, if you were 40, you're middle-aged.
Right.
If you're 40 now, do you have 50 more years?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have more years left on this earth than you've even lived so far? Yeah. With more access and resources and information and wisdom and all of that stuff at your fingertips, I hope that we're making decisions that sort of shake ourselves and ask what we're doing and why we're doing it. And this makes me think of a question that I feel like you absolutely have an opinion on.
Okay.
Which is this idea of like being in the Matrix or being in a simulation.
Yes.
Okay. I kind of don't care.
Your belief about the simulation.
I think it's perfectly plausible to conclude that we're living in some kind of simulation that's being ran by some other entity or consciousness or some other intelligence out there. I think that, like, man, I think...
Well, wait, let me tell you. So I was just talking, you know my friend Tom Bilyeu? You've seen him speak, right?
Oh, Lord, Tom Bilyeu call out. Okay. Rachel got red pilled. All right. Last part. I love some Tom Bilyeu slander. Hold on.
What up, homie?
Lisa's like, all right, I'm back.
So I was talking to Tom about this, and you know Tom has some crazy ass perception.
Yeah.
And he said, he was talking so fast I could barely keep up with what he was saying. But here's like the nugget that I took out of it, was he was like, if you could just conceive of the fact that this could be a simulation, then you have to also accept the fact that there's no way this is the first one.
Yeah, it's true.
So are you actually a simulation of a simulation of a simulation?
It's true. I mean, I think the foundation of
what was the point of saying Tom said that? Like, no one cares. All right, I'm out. Does everyone agree? Please say yes. I would like to move forward.